do me a favor, subscribe to my channel.
Hey everyone, Kyle here from Poseidon's Pets. So today in Poseidon's Pets Kitchen, we are making more shrimp food. So I know you guys are excited about this. I went out and spent a bunch of money on some health food items. So, you know, these are ingredients that I know the shrimp will love, the fish will love. So stick around and we'll get right to it. So first ingredient, alfalfa leaf powder. So alfalfa leaf is high in fiber, has a lot of nutritional value to it. I've seen some other shrimp food manufacturers using alfalfa leaf, so I know that's going to be good. And then of course, spirulina powder. So spirulina is very high in protein. It's a superfood, so it's great to add to any food that you are making. Okay. We'll line them all up there. Barley grass powder. So barley is a great probiotic. It helps to create a good digestive system for the shrimp. It creates a kind of like a microbiotic environment in the shrimp tank. So this will help to promote that bacterial growth, will help with the shrimp's digestion. And of course, everybody's favorite, Montmorollonite clay. So this says bentonite clay, sodium Montmorollonite. It's the same thing. This is a massive bag. This is gonna last me forever. Then of course, bee pollen. So organic bee pollen, high in protein, the shrimp go crazy for it. I've actually fed this by itself and they swarmed it. It was awesome. So they're gonna love this too. Now, if you've watched any of my food tutorials in the past, you've seen me make shrimp food before. I've got my duckweed food, which is basically duckweed and Northfin powdered pellets. They absolutely love this stuff. It's not really a shrimp food. It is, but it's more of a fish food than anything, but they go crazy for it. And then of course my veggie mix. This has all kinds of different veggies in it. Dehydrated zucchini, sweet potato. I'll put a card up above so you can see how I made this, but they love this as well, and it's been good. So I'm excited for these ingredients because honestly, this is a step up from what I've been doing. Now the kicker is, what I'm gonna do is, if you know me, I grow Frogbit in all of my tanks. Duckweed, Frogbit, it grows like crazy. So I've been putting it in the freezer. And what I did was, I put this in the freezer and I squeezed all the water out of it. So this is Frogbit and Duckweed, and I'm gonna add that to the food as well and kind of see how it goes. All of these ingredients, I know are shrimp safe. So if anything happens, this is the culprit. So I love to experiment. I'm curious to see how this goes. Of course, I'm gonna feed a little bit at a time, but it's an aquatic plant. When it dies, they eat it. So I'm guessing that it's gonna be fine. It may not have the same nutritional value as duckweed does, but if I have an abundance of it, I might as well repurpose it into shrimp food. Another ingredient I like to use is barley. So same thing like the barley leaf. This is going to help promote that, you know, beneficial bacteria and probiotic for the shrimp. So I'm gonna powder this up and add it as well. So we're gonna get right to it. I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing all these together. You guys will be right there with me, and at the end of it, I'll show you what they think of the food and how it turned out for me. So once again, stick around. So this is gonna be kind of a long video, and I don't wanna turn my pumps off for the whole thing, so I did turn them off for the intro, but your fish keepers, your shrimp keepers, air pumps are something you're used to, so I'm not gonna sacrifice my animals for a video. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn these guys back on because I know this is gonna take a little bit. So I apologize for the noise. But if you've heard my NutriBullet, this noise, nothing compared to this guy. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and powder up this barley and break that down to a nice consistency. this NutriBullet, it's a beast. I use this for myself as well as my fish. Here we go. So I still have some larger chunks in there. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it again. So that's a lot better. And that's quite a bit. I'm not going to use all of that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and process the Frogbit and Duckweed and get it into more of a liquid state. And this stuff smells awful. So I did kind of blanch it a little bit in the oven. Not too long. I put it at 170 for about 15 minutes to defrost it. And it smells terrible. It smells like plants, but it's definitely not anything you want to smell coming out of your kitchen. Now, this consistency, that's not gonna mix up, so we're gonna need to add a little bit of water. The other thing I wanna do too is I'm gonna add some frozen spinach. So this is organic spinach that I rinse and put into a freezer bag. Now, when you freeze spinach, if you leave it in there, you can crumple it up. So it'll actually kind of turn into this powder. And it melts really quick. So I've got about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of the Frogbit and Duckweed in there. And we're gonna add about the same of the spinach. So now, like I said, we need to add a little bit of liquid in here. So if you're a shrimp keeper, more than likely you have RO water on hand. That's just plain RO water, not remineralized or anything. Ready to go for your water changes. Now this is RO water that I use for top offs. We've got probably 2 cups in there. What was it, 16 ounces? So yeah, 2 cups. I'm gonna use half of it and see where we're at. So it's still a little thick, let's add some more water. Now you don't want to add too much water because we're going to have to put this in a dehydrator. So the more water we add, the longer this is going to take to dehydrate. So you just want enough to really mix these ingredients together. And then if we need to add more, we always can. So that's better. That's the consistency we probably want towards the end. So I'm gonna add some more water. Probably used about a cup right now. So about a cup and a half. Yeah, that's definitely a better consistency. So I don't want to waste this. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. Done with the NutriBullet. Go ahead and put that away. Done with our RO water. Got a decent consistency. It's still pretty runny, so hopefully after adding the dry ingredients, this is going to thicken up some to where we could pour it in those trays and get a nice texture to be able to dehydrate. So a few other ingredients I like to add to all of my fish food and shrimp food is some of Seachem's products, as well as Vitachem. So this is reef zooplankton, and it is full of astaxanthin, which is a color enhancer. So that's going to help to pull out some of those more red and orange colors that you may see in some of your shrimp and fish. So I'm going to do 1 capful of that. The next item is Vitality. So Vitality is basically absorbic acid, and this is vitamin C. So of course you can't have enough vitamins. Well, you have too much vitamins, but vitamin C is going to help with immune boosting as well as some other nutrients that they need. So we're going to do a capful of that as well. Boyd's Vitachem is a multivitamin, so this is going to help to add some of those other trace minerals and vitamins that they may not be getting. We're just going to do a couple squirts of those. So these do degrade at high temperatures, and living in Arizona, I like to keep these in the fridge, so I'm going to go ahead and chuck those back in there real quick. So to start, let's go ahead and add our alfalfa leaf in. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon of that. And we're going to add our spirulina powder. So same thing, 1 tablespoon. Then of course the barley grass powder. One tablespoon of that. And then the Montmorollonite clay. So this we don't need to add as much of. And this of course is good for molting and some of the other stuff. So we're going to do about half a tablespoon of that. Actually even less, more like a quarter. So I said this is going to last forever. Now another thing I like to add is Brewers Yeast, which is a beta-glucan. So you can buy it multiple ways. You can get just dried Brewers Yeast. As long as it's food grade, it should be okay. They sell it in bulk. So Glass Garden makes Shrimp Fit, which is a beta-glucan dried Brewers Yeast. So we're going to add some of that as well. We're going to do 3 big scoops of this. And I add a big scoop of this to my tank about once a week. And it does pretty good. And then of course another product by Glass Garden, Bacter A E. From my understanding and my research, what I've done is it helps to promote the growth of biofilm, so kind of like the barley, and it's just good for the shrimp as well as their overall health. So this you don't want to do too much of. I know a lot of people will say, oh, you just dip a toothpick in there. I usually do a quarter scoop once a week in each tank for the babies, and you know that's about all I do. But what I'm going to do is we're going to put a good scoop in there, because this is quite a bit of food and this is going to be fed over a period of time. Then of course our organic bee pollen. So this is high in protein. It is a probiotic as well that helps the shrimp. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, about 3 tablespoons of that stuff. And this is really good for them. They go crazy for it. Before I add my powdered barley, I'm going to mix this all up and kind of see what the consistency is, because I want to use this more as a filler and a binder than part of the food, because this is great, but this doesn't break down very fast. So this is gonna sit in the tank and it's gonna grow biofilm on it, and then the shrimp are gonna eat off of that. The snails love it. So it's not something that they could really digest right away. It's more of for water health and essential health of the tank. So it's a great binder, but it's not really a solid food for them because it's not something that's gonna break down right away. It's hard. This is a hard powder. So I'm gonna add that last. But we're gonna go ahead and give this a good mix and see where we're at with everything. So we've still got a pretty soupy texture. So I'm gonna add some of this in and see where we're at. Whoops. That's what the mop's for, right? Still pretty thin. Let's add some more pollen. So 2 more tablespoons of the pollen. Do 2 tablespoons of the barley. Now, we've got a better consistency. I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit for about 5 minutes, so that way it firms up. So as this absorbs the liquid, it's gonna thicken up. So you guys can see, it's thickened up quite a bit, so it's not as soupy. So now that this is thickened up, we're gonna go ahead and throw it on our fruit leather tray for our dehydrator and get this dry. That's pretty full, so hopefully it doesn't overflow on me. All right, so we got this thing in there, and you know, I probably have this way too full. So I'm gonna check on this periodically, make sure nothing's dripping down in there and ruining my dehydrator. So I'm gonna set this at a setting of vegetables, which is 125 degrees for about 4 hours. Now we're gonna let this go and come back and check on it. All right guys, so it has been a couple days since I threw this stuff in the dehydrator, and I let it go for about 4 hours. It was still pretty wet. Put it back in for another 4 hours, still pretty wet. So after about 8 hours or so, I was able to break it off of the fruit leather tray and put it onto just the regular drying rack. So that way it has more airflow. Put it in for another 3 hours. Now it's super dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and break this up, put it into a container, and then we'll have a good look at it. All right, so I got the food all broken up, and there's quite a bit. So I've got 2 8-ounce containers, pretty much full. And you know, I've got this, come on, focus. Got this dark green side, which you know, that's the spirulina. And then this lighter green side, which this side was facing down on the sheet. So weird little two-tone color. And I find it hilarious that every time I make shrimp food, it comes out a different texture, consistency, because this stuff is very brittle. It almost powders in your hand. And I did add a lot of powders to it, so curious to see how this is gonna go, how the shrimp are gonna like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop a piece in my cold tank, so with all my cold shrimp. And this is a new food, so I'm not going to feed it to all of my tanks. I'm just gonna experiment on this one tank. So before I feed this food, I just wanna thank you guys so much again for watching. I definitely appreciate it. And look what came in the mail. So I thought it was only fitting that, for my shrimp food testing, I wear the Pure Nordic shrimp shirt. So thank you, Dennis, over at Pure Shrimp and Pure Nordic Shrimp Food. If you don't feel like making your own food, go out and try some of Dennis's food, the Pure Nordic Shrimp Food. And I paid for this, not sponsored in any way. He's definitely got a lot of stuff and he's built a reputation for himself, so check him out. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you love me, you love my fish, you love my videos, hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out. But thanks again for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. But don't leave. I'm gonna show you the feeding. You're gonna see that right now.